Good morning, YouTube. Welcome back to the channel. Out running some errands this morning on the way home here. Gonna do a little video today in regards to service and maintenance. Relatively basic video, not gonna be anything in depth. I think one of the things that gets lost a lot of times, a lot of people are all about horsepower, how we can make it bigger, badder, faster. I'm all about it, but I think one of the things that gets forgot about is basic maintenance. Preventative maintenance can save a lot of money in the long run at a minimal expense to begin with. I see a lot of people, talk about the diesels being more expensive to maintain. Oh, a diesel truck costs you a whole lot more, and I'm not saying they're wrong. In my personal experience, it hasn't cost me any more to own and maintain this truck than it has any of the other toys or vehicles that I own. That being said, a catastrophic failure of some sort, something like a water pump on the Duramax, or you lose your injectors, let's say, they can be an expensive job. There's no denying that. Knock on wood, I haven't had any issues like that. I would like to chalk that up to the preventative maintenance that I pride myself on doing. I'm one of those kind of guys, I overly maintain things. Might be in most people's eyes total overkill. For instance, what we're going to do today is pretty basic. We're talking filters and fluids. A lot of people, I think, just take it for granted. You get lazy, time passes before you know it, you're packing mileage on the vehicle. I personally don't drive this truck every day. I'm not packing a lot of miles on this. It's not a daily commuter for me. It's used for towing, hauling, things like that when I need it. So for me, this is an annual service, something I do once a year. If you're packing mileage on your vehicle, you're using it hard, you may want to consider doing it a whole lot more often. I believe the Air Dog filter service maintenance that's recommended by Air Dog itself is like 15,000 miles. I do not put maybe half of that on this truck in a year. Irregardless, I change the filters out annually. We're doing it today. I do it once a year. Just is what it is. The only thing that I don't have today is the factory fuel filter, because it hasn't shown up yet. I ordered most everything online because I find it cheaper and easier to do it that way. Unfortunately, we won't get to that one today because, like I said, it's not here. Although I have done videos for that in the past. If you scroll through my videos through the channel, there's all sorts of different stuff, as far as installing and the Air Dog itself, changing the factory fuel filter. I relocated mine. There's a whole video on how I did that. Unfortunately, it was something I had done before I started making YouTube videos, trying to help people out. I've done a basic oil change video on the Duramax. Doesn't get a whole lot of hits, but you never know. Somebody may just be purchasing something like this for the first time, trying to tackle some DIY maintenance for the first time. It may be all new to some people. I get it. Other people, it's something to just scroll on by, and I understand that. But we all start somewhere. Prices, everything are high right now. The cost of living's through the roof. It's difficult to justify, in my mind, paying $100+ an hour shop rate somewhere for stuff that I can take the time and do myself. So if you're in that same boat, hopefully you find this video helpful. So if you guys follow the channel, as you know, I haven't exactly done a whole lot of videos on the truck or on the Duramax lately, mostly because things are pretty well left unchanged. I haven't done a whole lot since I first got the truck, did the delete, a bunch of upgrades in my mind, worked out some weak links with the Duramax right off the bat, and I really haven't had any trouble with it since then, other than the basic maintenance. Now there are wear items. You see me do the video on the alternator, when that took a dump on me. I lost the right front wheel bearing. Some of the basic service I did with like serpentine belt and things like that, but those are all wear items. Those are things they're going to wear, whether it's a diesel truck, a gas truck, depending on how rough you're using it, how many miles you're packing on it. Those are all wear items, things that you can't necessarily prevent, let's say. But changing your oil, changing the Allison spin-on fuel filter for the Allison transmission filter, just keeping up on your fuel filters, it's a lot of just real basic things. And I believe, I don't have all my receipts with me, but I think I've got all those filters, the AMSOIL. I've done everything, all that basic service for less than like $250. So in the end, it's a minimal hit for the the issues that it could prevent in the future. And if anything, it's good for peace of mind. Speaking of maintenance, we're just leaving the auto parts store. Actually, I had to order some new tie rod ends for the Mercedes. So, taking advantage of the sunshine we got today on this fine Saturday and getting all sorts of maintenance done on the vehicles. Now, granted, that vehicle's actually cost me more money to maintain than I'd say the diesel ever has. Granted, it's a little bit older and it's pushing almost 200,000 miles, but it's all small, relatively small stuff. May or may not do a video about that. I don't know. That car's not very fun to work on, and quite honestly, kind of doing these videos sometimes is exhausting. Put forth a lot of work, and some of them just aren't very helpful to people. Maybe people don't have the issues or aren't plagued with the problems that I seem to be. But anyway, we're on our way out of here. Be home in just a few minutes, and we'll start doing some fluid and filter changes here on the truck. All right, guys, just getting home. I decided to show you guys this real quick. So one of the things I pride myself on doing this channel was product reviews and company reviews. I'm not sponsored by anybody. Any of the stuff you guys see me use on this channel, I pay for them with my own hard-earned money, and I like to share my experiences with you guys. I think I pointed it out in a previous video before. One of the few upgrades I have done to the truck was I swapped out the factory stereo. It was taking a dump on me. It ate one of the wife's CDs and this and that. So we'll change it out, put the double-din DVD player in there and stuff. So the other thing I thought I would do while I was at it is really splurge, and I swapped out the headrest for these AudioVox DVD players for the kids. Thought it would make the road trips a dream for me. You know, about 7 hours for us to get down to the dunes. Kids are at each other's throats, so I'd put these things in there. Really cool, right? So play the movies for the kids. They can each watch their own video on the headrest. They're actually terribly uncomfortable and useless as a headrest, the way they concave in there. But they got the headsets for the kids. I don't got to hear what they're watching. They were an absolute lifesaver. Well, these things are like maybe a year old. I don't even think they're quite a year old, maybe. One of my frustrations with them, these things are like $250 a piece, and one of them's already taken a dump on me. These are the AudioVox Movies to Go 9-inch headrest screens. See this one here? It's just all sorts of glitching out. I don't know if you guys can hear that. It just quit playing the DVD. It won't play the movies anymore. It tells me no disc. Well, there's obviously not a disc in there right now, but it doesn't even know that. It just spins. It won't even attempt to spin the disc anymore. So, like I said, I don't even really know what to do with it. I'm frustrated. These things weren't not exactly cheap. You pull out the back to try to take a look at it. Big old sticker says made in China right on the back of it. As you guys know, I like to buy quality products there. Now with an actual DVD in it, you see it won't spin. So super frustrated with a crappy, cheaply made product. Really frustrated I wasted the money on these things. Thankfully I can. See if I can remember how to do it. I can swap this thing over. There you go. So they can at least watch the same movie, but now I got two toddlers. I got to try and get to agree on watching the same movie instead of being able to watch whatever the heck they wanted. So yeah, anyway, that is my review of the AudioVox headrest DVD players, Movies to Go, all in one. I wouldn't waste my money on them again personally. I might figure something else out and go a different route. That's just, I mean, $250 and can't get a year out of the DVD player is uncalled for, if you ask me. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started on the video I intended to make. Pop the hood and I'll show you what we got going. All right, guys, let's get going. So here we got our official box of goodies. As you guys know, I like to use the AMSOIL products. Again, I think I've showed this before in the oil change video I did. That's the AMSOIL oil filter. I use a genuine Allison transmission spin-on filter. Get that changed. Lots of different brands out there, but I've been sticking with the genuine Air Dog lift pump filters and water separators. And we've got the diesel oil. And we've got a bunch of AMSOIL tchotchke goodies in here. Stickers. Magnet. It's kind of funny. I always see guys online, especially on Facebook, talk about the goofy stuff with that. They're wanting all these little tchotchke things from Amsoil. They always get frustrated. Oh, I just placed an order and I didn't get any of that stuff. And I just kind of have to laugh. The thing is, like, when they put a promotional code on there, just order your product in anticipation of needing it. You know you're gonna have to change the oil at some point. Don't wait till you need it and then order it and then get frustrated when you don't get their little tchotchke giveaway stuff. So anyway, that, and then we got the other. I'm gonna try this today. It's engine transmission flush I'm gonna start using. So according to the directions, we add the entire bottle to the engine oil fill port. We'll idle it for 10 to 15 minutes and immediately drain the oil. We'll let that drain real good and replace filter and refill with new oil. So we'll go ahead and give that a try. Before I get that started, just a couple, little rundown stuff I like to check. Obviously check your fluids, your power steering fluid, your brake fluid, things like that. Obviously, like I said, I'm not going to be able to change my ACDelco fuel filter today because it hasn't come yet. I go through, I actually cleaned my air filter just a couple months ago. I've got one of those reusable filters I can clean, but at least check your filter. Check all your fluids. I like to go through and I grease my ball joints every once in a while. Throw some fresh grease in those things. Keep them from drying out too bad. And there's actually one of the other things people take for granted is the coolant, the extended life coolant. There's actually test strips you can buy for this stuff. They say it's good for, don't quote me, I want to say it's like 5 years, 150,000 miles, something like that. It's not cheap to replace. I think I called the dealership. I got to take this thing in for the Takata airbag recall on the passenger side here. So it's going into the dealership next month for that. I was actually curious while I had them on the phone because it's like quite a bit of coolant. I was curious how much it would cost to have them change this thing out. They quoted me like $180, $179 to do a coolant flush on the truck. I'm struggling with shelling out that kind of money to have them do it, but it would be kind of convenient since I'm already going to have to go through the inconvenience of having it in there. But if you're ever in doubt, you can buy the coolant test strips, test your coolant, make sure it's still got the anti-corrosive properties that's required. Something else to keep an eye on with these Duramaxes, every once in a while, pull this thing off, your cap off, and clean it. Soak it in hot water and Dawn dish soap. These things have a tendency to get sticky, get hung up. If you ever come out in the morning, it's happened to me a couple times over the life of my ownership of the truck. Come out and you'll see this thing sucked about as flat as can be. Clean that thing. It's a cheap, quick, easy fix. Try that before you replace it. So something I just kind of, since it's happened to me a couple times, every once a year or so, I'll just pull this thing off, give it a good scrub. The engine's hot right now, so I'm not gonna yank it off at this moment. But other than that, let's go ahead and start the oil change. Like I said, I'm not gonna go through every step by step of that. I already did a whole video with that with you guys, but we'll go ahead and we'll get that engine flush in and run this thing for 10-15 minutes like it says, and then we'll get it all drained out of there. Alright, so we'll let that run about 15 minutes. Okay, it's been about 15 minutes. We're going to go ahead and get this oil draining out of here as quickly as we can. Just in case you haven't seen the other video, your drain plug's a 16 millimeter. Little tip, notice when you pull your oil fill plug, how much quicker it lets that come out of there. If you guys have seen any of my maintenance or service videos, you know one of the things I really like to do is put miles, date, whatever information all over the filters. Anytime I service anything, I got a terrible memory and I'm good at forgetting things. Maybe some of you guys are better than I am. Sometimes I'll write it down on a notepad, throw it in the glove box. Whatever means of keeping track of your service you guys have, that's cool. It's just another method I like to use. While that oil's draining, we're gonna go ahead and get this filter swapped out here on the lift pump. Nothing really to these guys. Like to, you know, throw a little lube on the O-ring there, gasket, whatever you want to call it. As you put them in, I always pre-fill the filters here before I stick them on there. If you didn't see the install video of the lift pump, this is normally the air dogs are mounted on the inside of the frame rail. And I really like the air dog mount versus the fast. This is one of the reasons. I swapped it around though and mounted it on the outside of the frame rail. It was just for the ease of access to these filters. Just like so. So something else I'll point out real quick, you guys, at the risk of being stupid. These things literally have instructions on them. It tells you to pre-fill them. It tells you a 3/4 turn, tight, you know, past like there's no need to put a wrench on these, wrench them down ridiculously hard or anything crazy like that. Just thought I'd point that out, state the obvious. Just like so. Get these cleaned up and snugged down. No leaks. So one of the other cool things I really like about the Air Dog is it's a self-priming system here. There's no need to leave them loose, make a mess at anything you do. Seen a lot of guys leave those loose, crank that on, let fuel go flying out of there. Now something else I want to point out real quick, because a lot of people like to eliminate the factory fuel filter once they put a lift pump on. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. A lot of people ask me all the time why I don't. Think it's ridiculous, redundant, this and that. Maybe it is. That being said, I've never heard of, as long as you maintain the filters, I've never heard of anybody having failure or issues due to their fuel being too filtered. These probably are sufficient enough, more than sufficient. The main reason I leave it on there, and I'll show you guys real quick, hopefully I can get up in there. If you saw the install video of the Air Dog, I love this system because they've got these quick disconnect fittings. You can kind of see, you literally squeeze these with your fingers and you can pop them right off. You don't need a fuel disconnect tool. So if you're out and about, you're hours, days, miles from home, and your lift pump fails on you, it's literally a matter of getting under here, undoing these by hand, and I can bypass the lift pump entirely and run it through what would have been essentially the factory system. At that point, I've at least got the factory fuel filter and water separator in place to get me back home. That's the main reason I haven't eliminated that at all. Engine oil is pretty much down to a very slow drip at this point, so let's get this filter off and let that drain as well.
Same thing when you're installing your oil filter, guys. They got the instructions on them. Don't wrench them on so ridiculously tight that you can't get them back off, especially if you're the one doing the service next time. Now these, because they sit at such an angle, it's almost pointless, if not impossible, to attempt to pre-fill these filters. You end up wearing it or losing most of it. Something like that. And if you're real good, unlike me, you can attempt to do that without making such a mess. But you know my motto, you're not doing it right if you're not wearing it right. Now we got the oil filter draining. We'll continue to let that drain off, and I'm gonna go ahead and work the Allison spin-on transmission filter off here. Now I always pre-fill these as well once I get them off. That way I always know exactly what came out is exactly what's going back in as far as the fluid level goes. And I like to personally use Transin. There's a lot of debate I see online too about people trying to figure out what ATF to use in these things. You can literally get on the Allison website, look up under the Allison 1000 transmission. There is a list of approved, Allison approved transmission fluids you can get. Most of them say, when you purchase them on the bottle, it will say Allison approved on them. You know, you might be able to run something different. Sometimes I hear other guys say they run cheaper stuff or run something else successfully without issue. Hey, all the power to you. Personally, I'm only going to use Allison approved stuff. So the other thing I'll point out is there should be, when you pull these out, get my arm around here, you should have a magnet on top of there. A lot of guys pull these off, don't run them. Oh, they're not needed, they're unnecessary. I don't understand why you would do that. If you need a new one, they're super cheap to buy. $3 or $4 you can pick one up. Leave that in there. I don't take that out. We'll clean that up and we'll put that back in there as well. Here we are, the filter filled up. We'll try to line that magnet up just like so, and then we'll just stick it right back up in there. Alright guys, as you can see, drain plugs in, tranny filter, oil filter all replaced. Everything's cleaned up. We'll get up top there and start refilling it with the fresh oil. Alright guys, just getting the last little bit of oil in here. All the filters are in. Everything's clean and fresh. All the other fluids look good. We'll go ahead and get this thing fired up, let it run a little bit, set, and then we'll, don't forget to double check your oil level. Make sure you're where you need to be. Don't just make any assumptions. Like I said, unfortunately, I wasn't able to do the fuel filter today. However, I have done an entire video on that. If you're changing that for the first time, you're looking for that information, definitely check out that video. While that's warming up, don't forget to get in here to your driver information center, reset your engine oil life. There we go. I won't mess with the fuel filter because I didn't change it today, but that's also in there. You cycle through your buttons there. Check mark will clear it. If you've never done that before, it's really simple. Yeah, so that's pretty much all there is to it, guys. So one more thing I highly recommend keeping an eye on, guys, is get on the back side of your transfer case. You got a lower plug and an upper plug. This is your drain plug, your fill plug. Check the fluid in these every once in a while. They have a magical way of that fluid disappearing. When I first bought the truck, I went through and I serviced absolutely everything. I went through this. I drained out less than half a quart out of this thing. So when you pull that plug, you can already see mine starting to weep out. You should get fluid starting to weep right out of there at the fill hole. If not, stick your, your pinky in there and you should be able to feel it right there at the top of that hole. If you don't, might consider changing it or definitely top it off and make sure that thing doesn't run low or you could be in sad shape. These aren't exactly cheap to replace. That's about all I have for you guys today. Hopefully this is good to go for another year. If you guys are new to the channel, I greatly appreciate each and every one of you that take the time to watch my videos, silly or not. I appreciate you taking a second, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you already haven't. Greatly helps me out. Some of you guys may have found this really useful. Some of you may have found it a total waste of time. Either way, I appreciate you taking the time to watch the channel. Thanks again, you guys. Reach out with any questions. I always try to be responsive and get the best information out there I can. Irregardless, hopefully this is a reminder to get out there and service your vehicle. Just might be overdue. Take care, guys. We'll see you on the next one.